Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Kitty Hawk Town Council meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, September 6, 2022. Kitty Hawk Town Hall is 6 o'clock p.m. I hope everyone had a safe and happy Labor Day holiday. If you can and are able to stand, if you would join us in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, very much. Council, I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Lynn, second.
Second.
Second by David. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Presentations, Outer Banks Tourist Board, Mr. Lee Nettles and Mr. Tim Cafferty. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
So nice of all these people to come and see us tonight.
Great. Great.
I am the chairman of the tourism board this year. I'm the 31st chairman of the Dare County Tourist Board. Glad to be following the 30th chairman of the tourism board. Miss you, but Mr. Hines is doing a great job representing the town of Kitty Hawk. And Lee Nettles, the executive director, and I are here to give you a briefing on what's happening with the piece of property down in Nag's Head that we've been talking about over the last 12 years or so, the event center property, and what we have on our mind as we move forward. So we'll get through this together. And first of all, you know that we're good with tourism in Dare County particularly. The numbers just came out recently from the North Carolina Department of Revenue that our visitor spending in Dare County in 2021 was $1.8 million. It also accounts for, and that put us at number 4 in the state of North Carolina in terms of counties, behind Mecklenburg County and Wake County. And surprising, came in at number 2 is Buncombe County in Nashville. But we're still holding strong at number 4 ahead of Guilford County, for instance, in Greensboro. We account for 12,295 jobs in Dare County related to tourism. And there's $147 million in state and local revenue generated by the visitors through taxation. And one thing we like to point out, as the tourism board exists to promote tourism, it also exists to assist with facilities and things that are impacted by tourism. And because of this tax savings, we've equated that every resident in Dare County has a savings of $3,930 in what we're able to provide as a community in public access areas, parking areas, sound front, things like that. So that's always something we want to touch on whenever we have the opportunity to talk to people. Tonight we wanted to share our vision for this event center site that is in Nag's Head, and understand that this is a concept. It's not a final plan. We don't have plans to share with you tonight, as you will see by some of the renderings here that my kid looks like a child may have drawn some of them. But at any rate, we've come a long way to get to the site. The property was purchased more than a decade ago, and there's been a lot of discussion about what to do with the property over time. It works very well as it does now with the outdoor events, and we've put together an advisory committee made up of the tourism board. We've also been through the process of seeing the commissioners. We've been to the Chamber of Commerce. We've been to all but one of the towns, and glad to be here tonight to tell you what's going on. Recently, we went to the Association of Realtors, and we're going to some other civic groups as well to share this plan. And we want to make sure you're aware of what the issues are that we're facing and what is to be addressed next. We have the press here, the who, what, when, where, why, whenever you do a story, right? And so the why for this site is that we want to draw out-of-market visitation, which is the mission of the tourism board, for the less than summer months. But the lack of a large indoor facility in the area has hampered some of that. We've either outgrown the existing space, or the events don't happen at all because all of us may be members of some organization that might wish to have a convention here or bring their people here. We just simply have the space. I think the largest facility we have takes about 300 people. This facility, as you'll hear, will be more than 300 people. And when we look at the event site, it's great for things like the Seafood Festival and the different things that have been done down there, like the car show and so on, but it's obviously vulnerable to weather. Anybody who sat through the Seafood Festival a few years ago when it was raining understands that. We're also limited by the weather and the season. And there's high infrastructure costs if we had to put up tents or something like that. So this has been a long time in coming, and we've had this committee together that's talked through the various ideas of what to do with all the property. We feel like a facility will have a lower risk for year-round events. You can count on being there. We can have things not only like small conventions, but we can have large banquets, galas. We can bring in speakers that might draw a crowd there. We'll also hear a lot tonight about sports abilities, and I'll let Lee cover that. But we can also do concerts. We could do some of that on the lawn as it is now, but we'll see we have a more grandiose plan with that. And one of the most exciting things with this facility, you'll see when the design comes up here, is that we're looking for the future of our youth and people who can profit from knowledge of our local people and maybe stay in the community and work here as young people. And a culinary kitchen is one of the things we have in mind. We've been talking to the College of the Albemarle and even the local high school educators who say there are people who are interested in learning about how to be a chef. And we have a facility here that we visualize could be a culinary kitchen and maybe be a classroom of sorts. So let me get along with that and show you. Annually, the indoor event center and event lawn are projected to bring $25 million in new spending over time. It will operate at a deficit. This is going to cost money to do so. We have a plan about how to fund these things, but the return on the investment, we think, is going to be terrific. We will believe that there's going to be more than 14,000 more occupancy nights. And again, this is less than full season. This is times of October, November, January, so on. And there'll be another $1.1 million in tax revenue for the county. One of the most controversial things I hit it straight on is 191 new jobs. Where are you going to put 191 new people? Well, you have to look at it from the standpoint of a study and the models that these consulting firms use. They feel like there could be a repurposing of jobs rather than be a seasonal. This can be more year-round. It also takes into account police and fire and those kinds of things that are part of a facility like this. And so as we move forward, this is what it looks like now. If you were a bird and you were about 8,000 feet above the site and looking straight down, you may recognize the circle there in the middle with the sort of the checkers. We have that reinforced base under the grass. The entrance is right there with a little cul-de-sac. And to the right would be the Pamlico Jacks area. You also see what was the Dairy Queen, and there's a ropes course over there as well. And on the left would be where the Soundside restaurant area is. I want to point out the boardwalk because that's what we're focused on right now. If you see activity out there over the next few months, we're trying to build a boardwalk very reminiscent of what Duck has done. A 10-foot wide boardwalk that would cover the entirety of this property. There is part of that there now. If you look and you are not colorblind, you see the very dark brown area on the right side of the screen. That exists now. It's kind of where the ropes course is, and there's a way you can get out to the sound. But the lighter shade of brown, we are in the process of going through grants and all the approvals that are needed to build something like this over wetlands. And you see a nice gazebo in there. It's also some interpretive areas that you'll see. We want to make this active at all times. People come by, maybe just exercise or what have you. So you'll see this happen over the next year. And so be alert to that, and I hope you have the opportunity to use that as we go forward. As we talk about the event center itself, that's the time I step out of the way and let the man with the plan talk to us. Lee Nellis.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council.
Hey, Lee.
Appreciate this opportunity. So this would be the child rendering, I think, that Tim mentioned. There's a reason for that. It is not because I drew it, but we purposely wanted to keep it rough, just to remind everybody that we're at a conceptual level right now. It's not anywhere close to final design. There are some points that I would like to make about the event center, though. Tim shared with you some of the reasons why we believe an event center would be good for our community and good for year-round tourism. So now I'm going to take you inside the center and also share with you a little bit about where we intend to place it on the site, where we believe it makes best sense. So you can see that overall it's 48,275 square feet. That's comparable to, it's pretty close to the Publix grocery store in KDH. It's less than half the size of the old Kmart. So the biggest part of that is the large orange rectangle. That's a 26,000 square foot event hall. The little dotted lines that are in there are collapsible air walls. You see those when you go to some conferences or meetings. It just gives us more flexibility. We've seen already just from the event site that flexibility is key, because you really can't anticipate all the different uses that we'll have for this facility. It will, as you'll see in just a second, it'll fit up to 3 basketball courts side by side, or 1 court with retractable bleachers for more of a championship style setup. The lobby is a large area that will be used for pre-function area for meetings and different events, more flexibility. The K that Tim just mentioned, the Culinary Kitchen, we see that as a training facility, not only for the workforce that we have here currently, but hopefully to attract workforce to our area. So that's been really well received. That meeting space, the little orange area, is more of a flex space, really. So kind of TBD on that one. Ooh, I should have pointed out that gray bar on the bottom is a retractable wall, so that can be opened up and connected with the main event lawn, and we'll see that in a better view in just a little bit. Here's some of the sports views that I mentioned: the basketball, or those top 2 on the left. Then on the bottom row you see pickleball. We think that the smaller footprint of sports like pickleball, like wrestling, the little bullseyes over there, will be more popular because it's not a huge center. It'll expand the sports that we're able to do currently, and it'll be for the use by locals when it's not being used by out-of-market visitation. So we see it having a purpose for local use as well. Volleyball, cheerleading, gymnastics, we've already received a couple of calls from people that are interested in placing their events there. They're planning 2-3 years out, so it's been interesting. As Tim mentioned, our focus as far as the event size is from 300 to 2,500 people, so it'll greatly expand what we're able to do. This is back to that site again, and you can see the Dairy Queen's still there, Pamlico Jack's is there. This is with the event center placed, and the retractable wall is now kind of on the top, the side closest to the sound. It will be able to open up and connect to that main event lawn. The darker gray are new asphalt areas, new parking. We are able to take advantage of a lot of the existing parking that's out there. Let's see. One interesting thing to point out is we've had public meetings, and it's been clear from the get-go that preserving as much of that open space and that view shed of the sound is really important, and it was a priority for the advisory committee as well. So with this design and with this placement, 75% of that view is preserved. In fact, we'd be taking away the Pamlico Jack's and the Dairy Queen and flattening out that mound that was the mini golf out there, so we'd be opening up portions of that view. The placement of it has it primarily on the mini golf and where the Dairy Queen are currently located. Zoom in a little bit on it, and you get a better view of where we plan for grass overflow parking. It's currently being used already as overflow parking on the left-hand side, the south side of the site. On the right, the Pamlico Jack's building would be removed, and that would be overflow parking as well. We have a considerable amount of fill already there from the whole mini golf, so it helps with the development of the building to place it right there. It's a little bit higher already anyhow, as opposed to, we had a question earlier about why didn't you place the building out by the sound where the Pamlico Jack's is, and it's just so low over there. And the distance from there over to the event lawn, it doesn't look like much in this diagram, but it's pretty considerable. So we want people to have good access to the building and the restrooms and the facilities that are there. One last thing to point out about the design, we removed a couple of the curb cuts that had been there. So that's 2 fewer opportunities for people to pull off and pull out. So that should improve the traffic flow. And with this design, you'll be able to pull into the northern entrance or that southern entrance and get from one end of the property to the other without having to pull back out on the bypass. So we think that that'll help with the traffic flow as well. Tim mentioned we're at a conceptual level. We got a lot of work yet to do. These are some of those next issues to be addressed. We've had discussions about traffic signal. We've had conversations with the town. We've had some conversation with the county, but a lot more to come. What we're trying to do right now is get consensus around the concept, and that allows us just to put our energies behind one direction instead of trying to push 5 or 6 different options forward. So that's the concept, and certainly the Tourism Board would appreciate your support of it. We believe that the Event Center satisfies the Tourism Board's legislative mandate of attracting visitors in the less than peak months, the non-summer months, but we think that it does a lot more than that. The Event Center is the single greatest step that we can take to develop our year-round tourism economy and make us less reliant on the 3 summer months, which currently produce 70% of our revenue. So it makes us really vulnerable when we got 70% of our money coming from just 3 months. The Event Center will help our communities generate much needed tax revenue to pay for things like beach nourishment instead of that burden falling more on property owners. It has the potential to be a crown jewel for the Outer Banks, and we believe it should be. It should be a place where we can celebrate and get together and connect our community. Appreciate your time and attention. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great presentation. Any questions, councilors, comments?
Thank you.
Great idea. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you both.
Thank you so much for your
Thank you
time.
both.
Thank you for doing that.
Okay, folks, next up is public comment. Let me make a few comments about public comment, if you don't mind. I think we've got a large group here tonight, and I assume most of you are here to speak about the itinerant merchants and outdoor gatherings. If you've got a group and you've got a spokesperson who would like to speak for your group, that would be preferred. If each one of you wants to speak, that's okay too. Your comments will be limited to 3 minutes apiece, and I would ask that you speak directly into the microphone. This meeting is being televised, recorded and then televised later on. And we found out that unless you speak directly into the microphone, someone standing there is not heard as good as they should be. Had a conversation earlier with Mr. Marty Griffin, who wishes to speak tonight. If you've taken a look at the agenda, this is on our agenda later on in the evening. Marty's question was, would people be allowed to speak during that portion of the meeting, of the agenda? That answer is no. The reason for that, we put public comment towards the beginning of the meeting. We want to hear what you have to say before anything we may be voting on that night. It's happened in the past. We heard public comment and it changed the way we voted on some matters before. So we want to hear what you have to say. I don't know that we'll be making a decision tonight. That's up to the entire council here. If there's nothing else to be said about that, Lynn, do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
Yes, sir. Donna Griffin?
All right, come on up, Ms. Griffin. And thank everyone. We've got a great turnout. Thank you all for turning out tonight.
I don't speak very loud, so I'm going to get really close. Thank you for hearing from us this evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Donna Griffin, and I run and own Roanoke Island Artisans and Kitty Hawk. I've been nurturing creativity on the Outer Banks for 30 years now, but the outrageous art extravaganza, church groups, scouts, homeschool groups, you name it, all on a volunteer basis. So I'm a collaborator, I am a facilitator and a connection maker, and I take that into my business. In July this year, we plan to do a little art market, and it literally was meant to just meet a great need in our community for local artists to have more opportunities to sell their work and show their work. It was extremely well received by locals and visitors who were delighted to participate in a cultural event while supporting small business and local artists. Many people found our studio and other shops in Kitty Hawk for the first time because the art market caught their eye and prompted them to slow down and take a look. The artists who sat in 90-plus degree heat on Sunday afternoons are not itinerant. They're not blowing through our town. They're our neighbors, and they're just trying to make a living like you and I. They're young adults like Isabella, who grew up here and jumped at the opportunity to get her feet wet, selling her art and testing the market for making a living, doing something she loves. Abby and her sister, who attend First Flight schools, were there, and they don't even drive yet. But their mom is committed to nurturing their entrepreneurial spirits and stood by their side as they learned to navigate running their budding art business. The artist community is one of the many things the Outer Banks is known for. The number of artists has grown considerably over the last 2 years. Making a decision to allow artists and business owners to innovate together is a win for all, including the town of Kitty Hawk. Business competition has given way to collaboration. Collaboration is the wave of the future. It allows for mutual growth and expanded networks. It saves time and precious resources for small businesses and fuels innovation. Amy Hill has been a forerunner for this wave since 2020 with her Muse bus, and I encourage you to follow her lead. As you move forward, I hope that the language you choose will prevent any new ordinance from being used arbitrarily to pick winners and losers, which is what happened when the town denied any further permitting during the busy summer season, unfortunately. I hope you'll find your way to act quickly and allow for a successful fourth quarter. There are a great number of reasons why we should make it easy for businesses to collaborate in this way, but tonight I ask you why not. I cannot for the life of me think of a reason. I'm proof that small businesses don't need protection. I invited Amy to our market. Can I finish up like 2 more sentences?
Quickly.
Okay. If another, giving businesses the freedom to work together as we see fit is what we're asking for. And so I challenge you to set the bar for allowing small businesses and artists to thrive in Kitty Hawk. And let's all rise together.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Thank you. We just want to be fair with everyone getting the equal time allowed. Lynn?
Marty Griffin.
Okay. Come on up, Mr. Marty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
council members. Donna is my wife, which makes me her business partner by default. I'll be short and sweet with what I wanted to say. I'm a realtor here on the Outer Banks. I have been for over 20 years. And I talk to a lot of people, residents, homeowners, visitors, wannabe homeowners. And one thing that I hear pretty often is that the Outer Banks in general has become more and more like any town USA, with big box stores, chains, just becoming more of the norm for the area. And I just want to say that I feel that these small art markets and similar events kind of will help us maintain the charm and the unique character that we've always been known for. And I just hope that you will work with us to make these events happen and lead the way for other towns in the county to keep us moving in the right direction. I just thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else signed up?
Amy Hill.
Okay. Come on up, Miss Hill.
Thank you all for having us tonight. I have homework for you also. I'll cover that first. I did a petition back in June, online petition, and this is a copy of that petition and the 785 signatures as of last week, 791 now, asking not just Kitty Hawk, but all the towns here to start building a path for local artisans rather than building bigger walls. So I'll pass those out after I'm done. And then I'm going to just read this instead of looking at you because it won't come out. My first request this evening is regarding the moratorium on event permits you all issued in August. Simply put, please lift it. Not allowing events is unfairly handcuffing my business and local artisans as well as the brick and mortars like Roanoke Island artisans during a very crucial time. We're all local residents and small business owners working hard to earn a living in order to feed our families and continue to be able to afford to live here. I've personally hosted multiple events just like the one at REART in the town of Kitty Hawk successfully and without incident. By refusing to issue event permits, you've now shut down the ability of dozens of local residents and small business owners we partner with from simply trying to generate revenue and in turn tax revenue. Mobile businesses are a benefit to the brick and mortar businesses that we partner with. The businesses see increased traffic and revenue as we run an event on their property. In the case of both my food trailer and the markets I've hosted at Milepost 4.5 and Longboards and the food trailer at Stackham High, we're generating revenue on commercial property which would otherwise be sitting idle. That strip center 4.5 is closed on Sundays when we have those markets out there. Stackham High closes at noon. My food trailer opens at 11:30 and runs till 9:30 at night. In cases where the businesses are open, they see increased revenue, as well as just doubling the revenue from other businesses being on that property and generating it that day. For these reasons and many more, I'm asking that you please create a committee of business owners, residents, and affected people to go over these itinerant vendor ordinances before making any decisions. And I'll leave you with one question, which is why? Why would you want an ordinance in your town that would prohibit people from increasing revenue generation on commercial property and limit the local people's ability to earn a living? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lynn?
James Creekmore.
Okay. Come on up, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm James Creekmore. I live in Kill Hills, but just barely. I'm right behind Henry's on the First Street end. Kitty Hawk receives the majority, the overwhelming majority of my discretionary spending here in town, and I like it a lot. Kitty Hawk has got a huge advantage over Kill Hills and Nag's Head in that you've got space and it's not quite so busy, so we can move around a lot easier. The pandemic brought a new way of doing business to Kitty Hawk and everywhere on the beach by forcing people outside. And we're a beach town, and that makes perfect sense. If I never had to eat inside of a restaurant or shop inside of a store again, I would be perfectly thrilled. But what some retailers did, including Amy and other artisans, was they created an outdoor festival environment through which they could retail their goods. I'm speaking to you as a resident and a purchaser of those commodities. I've been to many of the Muse Originals markets that they put together during the pandemic. They started at Rundown and then they were at Longboards. I went to both of those restaurants and ate at both of those restaurants that day because the market was there. So the old coastal proverb, a rising tide lifts all ships, both of those businesses benefited by my family going there to shop at the Muse Village and then eating in those restaurants. The last time that I went to the village or the market when it was at Roanoke Island Artisans Shopping Center, I'd never been in that retail store. I didn't realize it was more than a place to make art. I didn't realize that it actually retailed art. And I was there at the bus that day to buy gifts for a party I was going to. All of them were purchased in RI Arts. I met Marty in there, purchased 4 gifts in there that day. And one of them I liked so much I contacted the artist and purchased 13 or 14 more directly for Christmas gifts. And then while I was standing there talking to Amy outside, I thought of something across the street at Trio in the bookstore that I wanted. And when I left, I went over there and picked up something on each of those places before going back home. So again, the markets bring visibility to the retailers and to the establishments that are around them. And everyone benefits from it. Those are all purchases that I would not have made that day because I wouldn't have gone out other than to go see the Muse Village there at the 4.5 mile post shops. So what I would like to ask this council and all the other beach councils that are facing and grappling with whether or not you need to change or adapt your ordinances, just like Ms. Griffin said, think of them as your neighbors. Think of them as your local business people. These are no longer carpetbaggers from the 50s and 60s peddling goods at the walkovers to the beach. That's not what we're dealing with at all. We're dealing with people who adapted their businesses during the pandemic to sell outside and to maximize the commercial returns of private commercial space. And when I go to these, I like to purchase from a majority or a variety of them. And it's a lot of fun. And so don't take that away from the community or the vendors. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else signed up?
Gary Perry.
Okay. Nah.
Good evening.
Good evening,
The
sir.
other side of the fence, huh?
You look
I
funny
have
over
a
there.
different concern. My name is Gary Perry. I live at 3831 Herbert Perry Road here in Kitty Hawk. I have some concerns based on articles in the Voice and Times. First, I congratulate your efforts to add and improve public beach parking. Please continue that effort as time and finance allow. Now, my concerns center on the ongoing issue of providing a replacement police station safe from flooding. Given the inflationary cost overruns of the plans when I was on council, your decision to buy the Centera property is a good one. That said, from articles I have read, there is some discussion of putting the Aycock Brown Tourist Center in the building with police and Bear Drugs and other medical offices. That is a bad idea for the following reasons. One, a police station should not be encumbered with external visitors in need of toilet facilities in the same building or wandering around aimlessly. Two, a police station in today's environment requires a level of security that other uses beyond public safety facility would hamper. Three, while use of the existing building was not the original plan, it does present this and future council some unseen benefit. 4, long before I sat on council, the state was pushing Kitty Hawk to build and equip a second fire station in the area, in that area up there. That push could become a mandate as the town grows. Additionally, the fact our very nice fire station was built in a flood zone creates other problems. Twice now, the fire station has been completely surrounded by floodwaters several feet deep, making response with fire trucks from the fire station either impractical or unwise. As a result, when a storm is expected, one truck with crew is dispatched to high ground, thus weathering the storm unprotected. The Centera site gives you the additional option to add shelter for that truck and crew now, plus future fire department expansion. You must look at the longer range picture for this facility. 5, letting the county build their proposed EMS facility separate from the town facility is probably in the best interest of town and county. Now to my second concern of a museum on the existing Aycock Brown visitor site. Since Mr. William Crest first approached the town looking for a large parcel of property to build a place displaying numerous replicas of the Wright Flyers, size and purpose seems to have expanded exponentially. Some things council and the citizens of Kitty Hawk need to understand. 1, Mr. Crest is a first-rate salesman. 2, is he selling this for the benefit of the town of Kitty Hawk? I asked at the outset why this project was not better suited to the National Park Service site. The response was National Park Service would be too difficult to work with and take too long. However, as the scheme gained ground, I learned that another purpose was to provide a place for the current owner of the replicas to also be the curator of the museum, something the National Park Service would be unlikely to permit. As the scope and size of this museum began to matriculate, I had serious concerns whether Kitty Hawk really wanted something of this size in the locations first examined. I mean, people seem happy, content with the current level of tourists driving through our en route to other towns and leaving us kind of laid back and underwhelmed by additional visitors. Will a super large facility such as this be acceptable to the citizens? 4, early on, I advised Mr. Crest that Kitty Hawk did not have financial resources to build, maintain, or staff such a facility. This council must consider what would happen if outside money builds and operates for a while only to have it fail and become a white elephant. Who will take over maintenance and operation? 5, the county just finished a new COA facility. Why is another STEM classroom set up needed? Where would students lodge? Finally, I do not understand how the police station visitor center, and a museum became connected. I do know they need to be disconnected. You got a lot to think about. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perry.
Thank you.
Is anyone else signed up, Lynn?
Yes, sir. Jesse? Vincenzo.
I hate to ask, could you please spell your last name?
Piacenza.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for having us here tonight. Mine will be really brief. I wanted to just remind everybody that a lot of us either moved here or live here, continue to, because we love the Mayberry feel, and that's what other people still draw them into the Outer Banks. That consists of people liking the slower way of life and getting to meet us. It's always funny when I get to talk with visitors and they're like, is that what it's really like here on the Outer Banks? Or what do you do in the winter? And that's what these markets have allowed for me, is to connect with a lot of our guests and our locals alike. During COVID, as it was already said, a lot of people found a love for dining and shopping outside. We, as vendors, took that risk, and we were out there face-to-face with the public, making ends meet, and also still being a welcoming committee for the Outer Banks. I am very thankful. It made some life-changing decisions in my life that I was able to do that. But I ask, as that phase of our lives is coming to an end, ask that we continue to adapt and evolve as the Outer Banks has many times, and to still allow this part that we've allowed us to go outside and enjoy restaurants and shopping more, to find a way that we can make that more accommodating. I understand that regulations may be necessary. I propose making sure that the businesses are registered, or if we need to have permits for such events, that is all very well and understood. I do operate as a business entity and pay my taxes and all of that. But it adds value to my life, my children's life, and from the feedback that I've gotten from my customers as a 5-star business on Etsy as well, we're enhancing the lives of our guests too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lynn?
That's everyone that has signed up.
Is there anyone else here would like to speak about any topic, any subject whatsoever? Yes, come on up, please. If you give Lynn, the clerk, your name and address, please.
Danielle, yes. Danielle Hutchison?
Come on up, Daniel.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. What's better than fresh cut flowers at a farmer's market or outdoor pop-up? I have no interest in being indoors. I have bought and resold flowers from 7 regional or local farms, and I sell other goods like candles I make, and these flowers never hit a refrigerator. They aren't shipped in a truck. They're from right here to people. So I'm all for all the outdoor pop-ups. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Okay, I have an email from Mr. Ralph Caffett, and I think most of you know he was unable to attend tonight, but sent an email and asked that it be read tonight. Mayor Pro Tem, and Town Council members, talks about review and discussion of itinerant vendor sales permits by the town of Kitty Hawk, and associated issues with those permits have brought a light to the need to rewrite the Kitty Hawk Town Code with respect to itinerant vendor sales, events and gatherings, and temporary uses. Please ask the planning department to develop a rationale for regulation and to propose regulation of the uses. In the development of the rationale and regulations, please consider both the desire of itinerant vendors for temporary sales and the impact of itinerant vendor sales on brick and mortar businesses in the town. Please include as well consideration of other nearby town regulations. If Kitty Hawk adopts regulations which are significantly more permissive than other nearby towns, Kitty Hawk should be expected to become a target community for such sales with consequential impacts on Kitty Hawk brick and mortar businesses. Thank you for your consideration, Mr. Ralph Cappy. Before we start our discussion, Council, as you know, and many people here in attendance tonight very well know, this has been discussed before. We have an ordinance in place. I know Rob, our planner, is here tonight to give us some discussion and planning and other ideas, options. Do we enforce that ordinance? Do we come together as council and feel the need to change that ordinance? There's a lot we need to talk about. But what we need to do, and I've heard it from the people out here, this side of the road needs to be treated just like this side of the road. We need to be equal whatever we do, whatever decision we make, whether we make that tonight or continue to work on it, whatever council wants to do. This past Friday, we had a council meeting here, special meeting, and I left to go to a business in your area to get my wife a gift card for her birthday. It was a good decision, by the way. But when I walked in the front door, the lady said, uh-oh, here comes the mayor. Are you here to get on us about tents, stuff out front? I said, no, ma'am, I'm here to get a gift card for my wife for her birthday. And all of a sudden, a smile came on her face. We need to get this thing settled one way or another, so we will have a direction to go. The people sitting out here will have a direction to go. They deserve it. We all deserve it. So let's talk about it. Rob, would you like to come up?
Shouldn't we wait till we get there?
Yeah, wait till we get there. We'll
let's
and we can hold our discussion for that point too.
Here.
Okay?
Yes.
All right, council, we have a consent agenda in front of you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Lynn, motion made by David. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? There are no items removed from the consent agenda. Council, I need a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, Rob, public hearing on the text amendment.
All right, this is the first agenda item for me, the text amendment to sections 42-1, 42-250, 42-251, 42-252, and 42-194. The majority of it is just kind of cleaning up our beach commercial districts a little bit, the BC 1, 2, and 3. We've got a fair number of uses in there that are listed as special uses that don't have any specific conditions attached to them. There are a lot of cases are less intensive of uses than those that are permitted by right. For example, one that we had just a month or two ago, doctor's office in the BC2 district. So you can see mostly what I'm proposing is moving some of those type uses. I won't go through all of them unless you want me to, from special uses over into permitted uses by right. In addition to that, there's creating a few new definitions for different uses that are mentioned in the ordinance but have not previously been defined by it. And then the last part of it, the 42-194, is uses prohibited in all districts. There was a state legislature a few years ago that came out that recommended that towns and localities, rather than just going by what was listed as permitted uses being permitted and what's not is not allowed, they recommended that we start putting in place uses that are prohibited in all districts, and then another process to review unlisted uses, comparing them to the permitted uses and prohibited uses. So I've kind of put that together for you as well. The planning board reviewed this at their July 14th meeting and unanimously recommended approval as presented to council tonight. I will note on the unlisted uses and prohibited uses, we currently have an ordinance in place for unlisted uses that kind of lays out the process. This kind of, I think, cleans it up, makes it a little more, or a little less arbitrary, and gives it more to look at, comparing it to the already permitted uses and proposed prohibited uses. So that's the reasoning for including that part in as well. Unless you want me to go through any more detail in the ordinance proposals, I'll turn it over to you at this point.
Okay, good. Is anyone here tonight would like to speak on this public hearing section? Council, any questions for Rob? I think mainly we're reclassifying and cleaning up, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Rob. Council, I need a motion to go out of public hearing back into regular session, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Lynn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, Council, what would you like to do in this matter?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the proposed text amendment reclassifying certain special and permitted uses in the BC1, BC2, and BC3 district and defining special use prohibited in all districts. Town Council has found the proposed to be consistent with the town adopted land use plan.
Motion, I need a second.
Second.
Second by David. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Okay, Rob, planning, land use plan update.
All right. As you're aware, back in June, the town issued an RFP seeking proposals from qualified firms to guide the town's land use plan update. The deadline for that submittal was July 20th. At the time of the deadline, the town had received one proposal from Stewart Incorporated. I've got a copy of the proposal attached to your staff reports. Stewart Incorporated appears to be well suited to perform the required tasks, having staff ready to be devoted to the plan update, and having recently completed similar CAMA land use plans for the towns of Duck, Manio, town of Beaufort, several other comprehensive plans for non-CAMA localities. Recently, Southern Shores has also accepted a proposal from Stewart to update their land use plan, and Kill Devil Hills is using them to update their zoning ordinances, so they're familiar with the area where they're going to be working if the town council accepts their proposal. I've spoken with all the local organizations who have used this firm. They've all highly recommended them. There's a note in the proposal that they would have a team of 7 employees working on the plan update, in which they would be coordinating public meetings, preparing maps. The estimated time frame for the project would be 10 to 12 months from the start of the adoption and Coastal Resource Commission certification. They put forward a detailed work program located at pages 25 through 28 of their proposal. Highlights the existing plan and document review and data gathering. They would have kickoff meetings, community tours, mapping, coastal hazard vulnerability assessments, kind of everything they need to give an in-depth look at the town and kind of lay out the vision for the next 10 years of land use development and how the town wants to move forward. At which point, once they develop the plan, they would have kind of an open house, receive public comment, and before bringing it back to council for any approval from council, they would look at all comments received and do any kind of revisions necessary based on that. The proposal received from Stewart Incorporated had a total cost ranging between $90,000 to $105,000. Would be billed monthly through the course of the plan update. And if council should decide not to accept the proposal from Stewart, the town would then need to re-advertise the RFP, allowing more time for new proposals, as we did not receive any other proposals the first time with RFP. With that, I will turn it over for any questions of me.
Thank you, Rob. One thing, believe it or not, I did read all of this. One thing that I was glad to see you had the information regarding to some local towns, municipalities right next door to us. Council, David, let's start with you.
I don't really have a whole lot to say, to be honest. I mean, they're definitely well qualified.
Okay. Ian?
We need to do it. No one else.
This is a requirement. This is a requirement, correct?
Yes, 160D legislation that went in place a couple of years ago requires that all localities in the state have a reasonably maintained comprehensive plan. They don't define what reasonably maintained is, but school of government advises every 5 to 10 years we should be updating. And our current plan was done in 2004, adopted in 2005.
Very good. Jeff, Charlotte, you have any comments?
Well, I came in and talked to Rob and just, budget-wise, just to see if this was something that we could maybe do internally, the planning board, or was it needed at all? And I was told it definitely needed, and the scope of the project is too much for staff, and so, and we have to keep it up to do planning, and so we have to do what we have to do.
Okay, very good. Charlotte?
I think we go with it.
Okay, motion by council?
I do have another question.
Yes, sir.
Were they the only ones that submitted a bid?
They were proposal, yeah.
Okay.
And that was with, we advertised in the paper and submitted to the North Carolina planning listserv that goes out all over the state. I believe we had about a month to a month and a half from the time of the RFP to the deadline.
Thank you.
Council, would you like to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to accept the Camel Land Use Plan update proposal submitted by Stewart Inc.
Motion by Lynn, second.
Second.
Second by Charlotte. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Very good. Okay, Rob, still under planning, itinerant merchants, outdoor gatherings. You've all heard what I have to say. Rob, if you would, and before we go any further, in case anybody leaves, thank you all for coming to speak tonight. I know it's not an always easy thing to do to stand up and speak in front of a group, but thank you for coming tonight. Rob?
So as reported to council back in July, currently section 16-1 of the town code prohibits the sale of any goods within the street and highway rights-of-way on ocean beaches of town or on parking lots and other areas open to the public which are contiguous to the state highway and town street rights-of-way. Although it's not written into the language, one exception to that is that vendors that participate in permitted outdoor gatherings per section 18-11 town code are permitted. Additionally, for a number of years, the town has permitted a mobile food vendor, such as a food truck or trailer, to be located at an existing commercial establishment if the owner of that establishment also owns the mobile vendor. That is not written into our town code. It's just the way that the town has done it for several years. Based on events that I've learned in another North Carolina town from a few years ago, this practice does not seem like it's a advisable or viable practice to move forward from the town's perspective. In addition, it's been discovered that for the past several years, there have been some discrepancies between how the outdoor gathering ordinance is written versus how it's been applied in practice and interpreted. Specifically, the ordinance states that outdoor gathering permits may be issued for 7 consecutive days, dating back to the early 2010s. Evidently, the town has been issuing them for 7 days at a time, but allowing them to be broken up over a period of, spread out. Some history on that from what I found was one of the outdoor worship groups that practice on the beach, a previous town manager, code enforcement officer, it was their interpretation that rather than requiring them to come every week to get an outdoor gathering permit, that they could just do it for 7 weeks at a time to gather on the beach and do their group worship. So after, and it was determined that if the town was going to make that exception for that group, that we had to apply it that way across the board to anybody looking to do the outdoor gathering permit. So that's kind of how we got to that point. After discussing this with the town attorney, it's evident that the town cannot continue its current interpretations based on the language in the town code. So tonight, staff is just requesting guidance from council in determining how Kitty Hawk would like to handle the mobile vendors and outdoor gatherings. Not presenting any kind of specifics or proposals at this point, just kind of wanting council's direction, whether to just enforce as written or to take it to the planning board, start looking at the itinerant merchant ordinance, the outdoor gathering ordinance. I think some of the things that have been permitted as outdoor gatherings is my staff opinion, rather than do it through the outdoor gathering permit, might be better suited under the temporary uses section of the zoning ordinance. It's 42-502. Yeah, I said, not present any specifics, not requesting any changes tonight, just direction of which way you want me to take it.
You've had your hands full too, I know. Thank you for what you're doing. Charlotte, let's start at this end this time.
I'd be open to having, let's look at this and get some suggestions from you and from the planning board for how this needs to be rewritten so that it can be addressed and enforced. So.
Before we get to Jeff, can you make whatever decision we make? I've copied down their concerns, and I think you have too. If we can take everyone's concerns into consideration that spoke here tonight, whatever we decide to do, that would be great.
And, my contact info is on the town website. Anybody, any interested parties can send me suggestions. I do planning and zoning. I'm not exactly an expert on, the little markets and vendors and all. That being said, any suggestions that are sent, can't guarantee it's going to be included in what gets presented to council and the planning board ultimately. Correct. But the more information I have to go on as developing something, the better for putting together an ordinance that attempts to work for all sides, the council, the vendors out here, and the brick and mortar business owners.
Very good, very good. Thank you. Jeff?
Yeah, I agree. We have a process that we use. We're not passing the buck. Our process is that we have a planning board, and usually we send your ideas as well as the ideas from staff to the planning board, and then the planning board brings forth a recommendation and presents it to the town council, and that's what I would like. And I would like your voices heard and staff's voice, and then bring back what they come up with, and let's look at it then and see what we have.
Okay, Lynn?
We need to come up with something comprehensive. But in the meantime, what can we do to help these folks out for the rest of the season this year? I mean, is there anything that can be done? Could we issue permits for the fall season?
I think we'll kind of stem the decision to not do any more outdoor gathering permits until we had a chance to look at it, is what I mentioned. The practice, the interpretation previously was not consistent with the ordinance. So I think if we want to keep issuing outdoor gathering permits while we're in the process of rewriting stuff, they would have to be done by the ordinance. No different interpretations, just it would have to be a strict application of that section 18.
Basically, we have an ordinance in place that is not being enforced properly.
Correct.
So what would that mean to these folks? Can you so we have it for them to hear?
What's that?
I said, can you kind of capsulize it so that they can hear what they could do for the remainder of the year, if anything?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, the big one that I think kind of stirred everything up on this one and has drawn some people out tonight was the market that was done over the milepost 4.5. It was issued for, I think, 5 separate Sundays, where the ordinance, if it was done the way it was written, the outdoor gathering permit would have been issued for 7 consecutive days. And if they wanted to do a separate Sunday, they'd have to get another permit.
Another permit?
Yeah.
So they could run,
Right, the way it's written right now, there's no limit on how many.
So they could run concurrent permits?
Yes.
They just have to reapply for every weekend or every week? So
Anything that we would issue in this time being would have to, so it could only be issued for the 7 consecutive days and would have to comply with the other components of the ordinance as well.
Right, just trying to find out if there's anything we could do to help them right now.
David?
I mean, I want to help them too. I have not had one phone call from a brick and mortar store opposed to what's going on. I personally like it, and I think, there's enough room for everybody. It'll weed itself out in its own right. You talk about food truck. I mean, we can go on down all these paths, but I don't have a problem with folks setting up and displaying their artwork and flowers and things to that effect. I think it's good for the community.
Can I say something else?
Sure.
I really don't think that the brick and mortar stores need protection. I mean, we don't need to, yes, their ideas need to be heard, but if they're going to bring business in, they're going to bring business in one way or the other, whether it's somebody having an art festival in a parking lot and they feel that that's competition. Well, competition is what makes businesses thrive. It makes them the owners, and it brings out creativity.
I don't know that it really is so much competition either. Everybody's got their own product.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think they all work hand in hand in my eyes anyway.
I think we're looking at outdoor gathering is not the same thing as what they're wanting to do.
That's kind of my gut feeling. Yeah, I think this example, would be better, like I mentioned, better suited in the temporary uses. We issued permits for these temporary sale type events where, I feel like the outdoor gathering is more of like, an event, like, Bike Week comes down that has, a central hub drawing everybody in. I don't know. I mean, it's something I'd be looking at before I take it to the planning board, but like I said, my initial reaction would be that it would be better suited under that temporary use.
Okay, council, I know these people want a decision tonight, but do we have a motion?
How quickly can we get that rewritten? The suggestions that you might have?
I can probably have something to the planning board October, November.
Follow the process. It's got to go before them first and then come back to us.
Right.
I'd just like to get it on there as soon as we could, so it can get back to us sooner so they can be prepared for next season.
Well, October's going to be the earliest, just because of the timing when the September meeting is and the staff work to go into it and all. And I would probably do it rather than trying to do it all in one presentation to council with the itinerant merchants, the outdoor gatherings, and the temporary uses. Break them apart so there's less chance of getting confused where we're talking about one over the other. It may all come at the same meeting, but it would be separate proposals, separate agenda items, just to try to keep it clear what we're talking about at that point.
The moratorium that's in place right now, is that something that we could relax, and then they get a permit as it's written at this time?
Yeah.
Or
The the
How
town
does that
attorney and
happen?
town manager, or another one here right now, but I think, yeah, if council wanted to.
It's a council
to
decision.
lift that, it could, just with the understanding that any outdoor gathering permits written would be,
The current writing.
right, it would
Okay.
have to comply with the current.
So if they could
ordinance.
get it for 1 week,
Yep.
And only use it for the weekend.
get it for the weekend and get another one for the next weekend. Cover September and October.
All right, council, I need a motion.
Well, I mean, a little bit more discussion. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that, to be honest, I didn't really realize that we had kind of done a moratorium the last time. I knew we wanted to look at it and stop the 7 days broke out and make them consecutive so that they were more in line with the code. And I think personally, if we had a code in place that is active and running right now, then they should be able to go by that code until we can correct it or leave it like it is. That seems the fair way to these folks, you know.
I agree with that.
Is that going to benefit these folks?
I'm-
I mean, I can't answer if it would benefit them or not. I guess they would have to answer that one, but.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for them, but I feel like that gives them the availability to go on even next weekend.
That gives them the chance to do
They
something.
can do it 7 days, only using 1 or 2 while we work through the planning board.
That's our only option
Right. So I
that
think
I see
that helps.
Till it goes.
till it goes to the planning board.
Right. That helps them in the short term.
And it helps them now till we can get.
I'm waiting for a motion.
Go ahead.
I mean, I don't, what do you want me to say?
I guess if that's what you want, if we want to do that, I guess you just include that in the motion that, you know, we're granting outdoor gathering permits as written, and then include the motion to go to the planning board with the text
Correct.
amendments.
Is that what you want to do?
I'll make that motion.
Yeah.
Just,
I'll second it.
just what you said.
David,
What he said.
did you get that, Lynn?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion made by David, seconded by Lynn. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. You got your direction there, Rob? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Old business, due diligence update on a property under contract. Councilman Hines?
All right, update on the police department building is, our Centerra property is, we're moving through our examination periods, surveying, site plans, environmental impact studies, are all just about at the finish line. Inspections have come back more or less as we expected they would. We got some things to work through, but I don't see anything that's going to prohibit us from moving forward on the purchase. I still think it's a good purchase, looking at the reports. Happy to answer any questions.
I know Casey's not here, but he was working on
Title.
the title and closing date, so forth. Do we have any further on that?
We were going to extend, we were going to utilize the provision in our contract that automatically granted an additional 30 days of examination period because we're coming up on 60. So we're going to trigger that to move into the extra 30 days. I suspect we'll have it closed inside that time frame too.
Before then? Okay.
So that's my report on the Centerra purchase.
Thank you, David. Any questions or comments to David?
David, was any study done as to the buildings that we wanted to remove for asbestos? Was that done?
I believe one of the inspectors had gone in there, but we're not paying any attention to it. We actually held back on inspecting any of those buildings because we knew we were going to get rid of them.
Okay.
Good question, Sean.
Yep.
Okay, anything else for David? Thank you, David.
Yep, yes, sir.
Hopefully we'll have some good news soon on that. No new business. Time manager, our time manager, Andy Stewart, actually left. He had another meeting in Manio at 7 o'clock regarding some ongoing time business, so that's where he is. Our town attorney is under the weather, is not feeling well. Reports from town council. Ms. Charlotte.
I have no report at this time, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. Jeff?
I just have one. Our life-saving service, this summer, they're kind of wrapping down their season, and with their skeleton crew that they have, I just want to thank them. They did a great job this summer. They make our guests feel so welcome. I did a drive along with Captain Cole, and he took me along and explained how he's been working to educate people on the holes, and he's noticed a big decrease since they've started making people aware, and so it was really an enjoyable ride and a nice way to say goodbye to some of our fantastic lifeguards that put their life in danger every day when they go to work. That's a heck of a job. That's all I have.
Very good thing. I went to the beach Sunday myself and stopped at the lifeguard stand. Young lady, that was her last day. She was leaving yesterday, going back to college at Liberty University. The young man, yesterday was his last day. I asked, had they had any complaints about beach nourishment going on down for her? They had not. I asked how their summer went, and said it was a very enjoyable, pleasurable summer, and they look forward to coming back next summer. So I agree, they did a great job. Lynn?
We made it through the Labor Day weekend. It's now into the official shoulder season, and I'm looking forward to some fall temperatures too. And not so much the temperatures. How about some fall humidity?
Yeah.
Where it's not quite as. Yeah, we're here. I think we're doing all right.
Thank you, Lynn. David?
No, sir, I'm done for the evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Council, anything else? We've covered a lot of territory here tonight. Thank you. If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Good evening, folks. Thank you.